Be'ezrat Hashem, in just a few months, we're going to pray on Rosh Hashanah for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to renew the next year, L'tova u'livracha, L'tzatan u'simcha, L'parnasan kalkala, and all of that will be based of how we are going to act in these few months. Like all beginnings, it's a time to take advantage, and it's a time also to shape ourselves in any way we want to be, in any direction we want to go. And that's why, Baruch Hashem, we find that the last few shurim were very much in that direction of trying to maximize our potential and to try to maximize our ability to grow in this world and our ability to reach to great success. So we think that now that we're still in the beginning, maybe we can continue in that sort of line of each individual coming to the place of truly finding their path of reaching to true success in all manners. Parasha, spirituality, zivug, friendship, all what one could possibly desire for. We're going to start Abotai with a beautiful pasuk in this week's Parasha that many of Chazal ask questions in trying to understand what was the point of it even existing from the first place. As we know, Abotai, in this week's Parasha, we start to read the growth and the development of a big part of our world in a very, very blessed nation. What nation? Who are we talking about? Ishmael. As we know what the Zohar HaKadosh says, that Ishmael was one of the blessed angels and blessed umot that existed there from the creation of the world. The Zohar HaKadosh says, and asks a question regarding a pasuk that exists in this week's parasha. It is very unique. We read, Ishmael grew up in the desert, and towards the end of his development, the Torah says, Vayehi rova keshet. What does that mean? The Torah witnesses on Ishmael that he was a very good marksman, and he knew how to shoot a bow and arrow more than any person that existed at his time. Rabbi Shimon Yochai asks, what is the point of talking about what Ishmael was good at? Many of our ancestors were probably very good at many things, but the Torah doesn't go out of its way to talk about that Avraham knew how to use a sword. We're reading in this week's parashot that Avraham Avinu went to war against nations, and he won. But still, in no place we hear Avraham was very good at wielding a sword. But here, suddenly, in Ishmael's case, the Torah goes out of its way to talk into praise of how Ishmael reached to a level where he was a professional with a bow and arrow. What is the point of this? So, many of Chazal ask this question. And Chazal answer in a manner like this, where they say, Penei HaShekhinah, the presence of the Shekhinah, existed with Ishmael. And therefore, because the presence of the Shekhinah existed with Ishmael, he knew how to be very successful with shooting the bow and arrow. So the question about that we can ask with this is, what is the connection of having the presence of the Shekhinah and being a good marksman? And what's the connection to one supporting the other? So in order to understand this, we have to understand what it means to have the presence of the Shekhinah within a person. In our terms, there's a word and there's a phrase that we use that is more commonly used, which it is B'siyata Dishmaya. What does B'siyata Dishmaya mean? In simple translation, it means help from above. Or what Chazal called it, presence of the Shekhinah. Chazal teach us that B'siyata Dishmaya, help from above. What is it? Chazal say in simple words, it's when up there, from Shamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, messengers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, take a person and they walk with him hand in hand, like the translation of the sentence itself, help from above. They push him and they take him to a place of greatness. Chazal say that B'siyata Dishmaya, help from above, seems to be a very, very blessed thing, a very, very good thing. Who doesn't want help from above? But Chazal say that help from above, this B'siyata Dishmaya, is actually a very dangerous thing. Where it's something that could cause great bracha and great success and great development in a person's life, spiritually, in all manners. But it's also something that is very dangerous when it exists from a person, within a person. So now we'll ask, how does help from above come from a place of danger? How can help from Shamayim be dangerous for a person? So Chazal says it's very simple. Zohar Kadosh says it's dangerous because we, as creations, are very unique. In what manner? In the manner that all creations are followers. Where Kadosh Baruch Hu sets a path, sets laws of nature. A predator is a predator, prey is prey. A small animal is a small animal, a big animal is a big animal. And like that, they follow in the path where Kadosh Baruch Hu leads in. And they can't leave that direction because there are followers in their nature. Bnei Adam, men, are not created like how other creations are created, followers. Bnei Adam, who were copied in the image of who? B'tzelem Elokim, the image of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Meaning that we share the same characteristics to a certain level, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's our Father. Being creations that are copied in His image, we share also this concept of leadership, where we essentially have the ability to lead ourselves, not in a direction that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set and paved for us, but we could lead ourselves in any direction that the man wants to. We could create our own world in there we want to live. Zohar Kadosh says, when a person has self-leadership, it could become a great problem when there is B'siyata D'Shmaya, when there is help from above. Why so? Like we just explained, help from above is what? It's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushes forward somebody, helps a person walk in a path. When a man leads his own path and he receives a push from Shamayim, a push from up there, it could be something that is very, very bad. Why? Because help from above can lead a person to a good path, if that's the path he created for himself. And Chas v'Shalom, help from above could create great success for a person that wants to go in a very negative path. And you will succeed in that path in the exact same way. And the way you could give an example for is the most simplest thing ever. And we can see that the examples and the analogies are very common throughout all the classes the last few weeks. It's like a man that has a field. And that man takes this field and he takes a bag of seeds of a very, very spicy peppers, and he plants the seeds. When the rain will come, what will grow? Spicy peppers. But no, he wanted something sweet. What you plant, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bracha and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's push comes, that is what's going to grow. If you planted something sweet, the push from Hashem, the push from Shamayim, from above, will develop that sweetness in that path. If you will develop or you will plant something bitter, then something that the push from HaKadosh Baruch Hu will create something bitter. And that is a klal. And that is why being a creation of leadership holds with it great risk. Where we lead ourselves with Hashem's help in whatever direction that we choose. So that means that we are in a place that we have a lot to Chas v'Shalom lose if we're not in the right path, or if we're not holding ourselves to a good standard. Maybe we can say that according to this, we could learn something very big. Maybe we can say that the Torah actually wanted to teach something big about Ishmael. The Torah said that Ishmael, he held within him the presence of the Shekhinah. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with him. The problem was that Ishmael took that presence of the Shekhinah, took that B'siyata D'Shmaya, and instead of using it for maybe becoming very wealthy, or becoming big Talmid Chacham, or maybe becoming a big man of Chesed like his father, he took it, and what did he do with it? He learned how to use a bow and arrow. So in the end of the day, he became what? He took all that potential, all that bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him, and he turned it into what? Into skills of what? Of a bow and arrow. Where all that presence of Hashem turned out just being a skill that Ishmael was able to use, and was able to become a hunter out of it. We learn from that something very, very big. We learn from that the potential and the greatness of our ability to lead with the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where a man can reach to the greatest of heights if we choose and with Hashem's help. And as well, we learn the danger of a person that takes his power of leadership with Hashem's help and reaches to Chas v'Shalom great dangers. And this is something that we see throughout even our entire Torah Kula. People with bracha, for the good or for the bad, were able to succeed in their direction where they chose, in the direction that they chose to lead in. We can see this with Korach. We know Rabotai Korach was a man of great Korach. He was wealthy. He was the wealthiest man that existed. He was a Baal Nivwa. He held prophecy. He was a Talmid Chacham. He was able to see that Shmuel and Navi was coming out of him. What we say, Shmuel is like Moshe and Aharon Kalul, both together. Korach had Korach. He had help from above. He had bracha in everything he did. The day he got up and he chose to make a fight, and he chose to make a machloket, he chose to do something negative, he had that same bracha, he succeeded in it. And he was able to split the entire nation of Eretz Israel in half. So we see where bracha is also something that could be turned into negative. We can see the same thing with Bnei Israel. It says that when Bnei Israel were in the desert, HaKadosh Baruch Hu fed them food that gave them the knowledge to understand all Olamot Elyonim. When we study Sodat Torah, the secrets of Torah, and we say, how didn't other generations learn that? Other generations did learn that. The Ramban even explains in his Pirush of the Torah, where the man, what was it? It was the food of knowledge. Where one who ate from the man was able to essentially attach themselves to Chokhmot of Olamot Elyonim. Were they able to understand all the secrets of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and all the builds of the worlds above? In other words, they connected themselves to the higher worlds just by eating the food of Shamayim. They took that knowledge, they took that ability to understand secret and how this world works, and they made a walking golden calf with it. They took the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they led it in a specific direction. And in that direction where they chose, that was the direction HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped them go in. This is, Rabotai, a rule that we can see throughout many, many places throughout our Torah. The bracha that we receive, we have the choice and the ability to lead it in any place we choose, and in any direction we choose as well. It's like we're going to read in Haftarah soon, the famous story of the couple, Shunamit, and the helper of the Navi, Garzi, where the Navi says a beautiful story about how Shunamit the Tzadikah came to the Navi and begged for many, many years for a child. The Navi says that after many, many years, Kadosh Baruch Hu blessed her with the bracha of being able to bring a child. Shunamit was extremely happy, she was excited, she felt blessed. She felt that finally her life came to a place of completion. The Navi says that after a few years, the son of Shunamit got sick and passed away. So immediately, Shunamit came to Elisha Navi. He said, I don't understand. I prayed for a son all those years. You blessed me with a son, I received a son. But if the bracha was that I would lose my son only a few years afterwards from your bracha, I would rather that you didn't even give me this son in the first place. Where you give a bracha that would be short-lived. For what purpose is it? So the Navi says something incredible, that the Navi called Garzi, his helper. And he told his helper, take the stick. And Arizal says that, he said, with this stick, he wrote Shem Membet, which is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is hidden within the Anan Bekoach. Go to the son of Shunamit and hit it. When you're going to hit the son of Shunamit, with the merit of what I wrote with that stick, that some say it was the stick of Moshe Rabbeinu, we're not going to get into all the details, the son of Shunamit will come back to life. It says in the Navi that Garzi, when he heard this, he said, this is a miracle that I'm about to see with my own eyes. He was very, very curious. On his travels there, while he was traveling to the house of Shunamit, it said that he looked on the side of the road and he found a dead dog. So he said, look, if this stick is a stick that brings people back to life, I want to test it. I want to see how it's going to work. So now the Navi says he took the stick, he hit the dog, and what happened immediately? It says the dog came back to life. Garzi's emunah, it was completely open. Garzi's emunah came to a place of fruition. He was extremely excited. When he reached the house of Shunamit, he took his stick, he looked at the child, and he hits it. And he waits to see what happened to the dog occur on the son of Shunamit. And the Nabi says nothing happened. He hit the child again. He says, no, maybe the second time it's going to work. Nothing happens. He takes the stick, hits the child again. He says, maybe the third time, chazakah, the child's going to wake up. Nothing happens. So immediately Garzi returned back to the Nabi and said, I don't understand. I took the stick, I hit the child, he's not waking up. So the Nabi says that. Elisha looked at him and said, on the way there, what happened? So he said, nothing. I walked straight to her house. When I arrived to the house, I hit the child. He says, what, you didn't try to do something while you were traveling to her home? She says, on the way, I wanted to test to see if what you were going to tell me is going to come to fruition, and I'm not going to make a fool out of myself. I saw a dead animal, I hid it, it came back to life. Arizal says, but what was the secret behind that? The secret behind it was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Elisha Navi and Garzi the koach to bring something that was no longer alive back to life. The problem was that Garzi took that ashpa and that b'siyata dishmaya, and he channeled it and he directed it in what direction? To bring the dog back to life. So the dog came back to life, but that b'siyata dishmaya went with the wind, went in a negative place. And this is something, Abotai, that many of the Chassidim, in the teaching of the Chassidut, teach the importance and the danger of when a person has bracha, to always make sure that bracha is going towards the right direction. Because people can be blessed, and their negative acts and their negative wishes can also be blessed as well. And then we can come to a place of, like the man that planted the very, very bitter peppers, the spicy peppers, and say, this is not what I want. This is not what my will. But that was the direction that you chose to walk. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help pushed you forward, when the rain came. And this is something about that we all need to take very, very carefully in our hearts and apply it in our life in all aspects. Whenever we see that there are times of bracha, those times of bracha need to be channeled in the right places. Because if not, that bracha will come, and what will grow will be bitter peppers, will be bitter fruit, will be a bitter outcome. That's not something that the person wants to. And it's not just that. It's that each person needs to understand that with that bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives, we could achieve all. We can come to a place of achieving all what we wish. The question is that are we ambitious enough? Are we able to see that? And this is something, Abotai, that we could see with all Jews. We know, Abotai, we are in a world that have how many? Billions of people. If we look at the amount of Jews that create special patents and do very unique, smart ideas and lead all the new technological growth, it's almost always Jews. So clearly Jews have what? They have b'siyata dishmaya, but the problem is that all those Jews, instead of taking it and using it for Torah, and using it for mitzvot, and using it for worshipping HaKadosh Baruch Hu, those Jews, they took it, they put it in other places, and they succeeded in it. Meaning that we all have to understand that our ability is not limited to anything when HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bracha is in the equation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it doesn't make a difference for him to put a person at this level or that level. This world is all hevel avalim. It's all nothing for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to move around. The question is, are we directing ourselves in that manner from the first place? There's a beautiful story that Rabbi Pinto brings that I think really sums up this thought and this concept to the simplest and easiest way we could understand. Baal Shem Tov says, at one time there was a maaseh, something that occurred, that there was a very, very famous racer that came to that city. It was a racer that any horse he rode, he was guaranteed to win the race. And he became very popular. So that one time, this racer came to the city of Baal Shem Tov, and all the Bnei Ha'ir, all the children of the city were gathering around this man, trying to shake his hand, to say hello, to get to meet such a famous individual. And Rabbi Shem Tov looked at him and he had like a disrespect to him. Didn't want to look at him, didn't show him any sort of attention. So Rabbi Shem Tov says that the racer realized that everyone had chased him except for one old man. So he got offended. He said, "What is this? Everyone wants to be able to meet me. This one man has something that he doesn't desire to be close to me." So immediately he came to Rabbi Shem Tov. He said, "Rabbi Shem Tov, I don't understand. Everyone wants to be close to me. How come you are the only one that show like a disrespect to who I am as a person?" So Rabbi Shem Tov looks at him and he says, "The reason that I don't have as much kavod and admiration like everyone else do is because I see what your potential is." So the racer, he looked at Baal Shem Tov, he said, "What does that mean, you see that what my potential is? What does that mean? How does that have any effect on how you see me as a person?" So Baal Shem Tov, he said, "You know, up there in Shamayim, you had the ability, you had the bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reach to the point that you could have become a king. Where if you walked in the path of leadership and you walked in the path of helping one another, maybe with the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you would have ended up being a king on an entire country. That's how much bracha you had. But you ended up taking all that bracha and channeling it and directing it to what? Becoming a racer. So he was successful in becoming a racer." Our problem, many times in our life, we limit ourselves to what our potential, or what we seem our potential is. And we put ourselves in a place where the maximum that we can grow is very limited. So even if the mazal of our mazal and the help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu suddenly gets awakened and HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushes us in a certain place, we will grow, but we will grow only to the maximum where we set ourselves to. And this is a rule that Chazal teach us, that there is no such thing that the day of a man does not arrive. That we all have that moment in our life where the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu walks us and pushes us to a place of greatness. There's no man that didn't have that opportunity or that chance to succeed big. We all do. But the question is, were we pointing ourselves in the right path? Was it a positive path? Were we choosing at that time for growth, or were we busy with shtuyot of talking about one another, or any sort of worldly manner that has no potential of growth? And that is, Abotai, a rule that we all need to put into place. That where and how we position ourselves, when the wind of HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushes, that direction we go. It's like a sail. The boat is in one place. You direct the sail. When the wind comes, the boat will be pulled in that direction. In our lives, we always need to be pointed, to be directed in a positive way. Because if not, we could end up in a place that we have zero intention to be. It's like we thought about the Gemara Nedarim that says, "At kol ha'ko'es ki'ilu oved avodah zara." A man that is upset, it is as if that he's doing idol worship, or avodah zara, like we translated last week, foreign worship, foreign task. What's the connection to being upset and foreign task? How do they have any sort of similarity one to the other? So we said maybe we can say that the similarity between avodah zara and being upset is that when a person is upset, he's essentially leading himself in what direction? In a foreign worship, in a foreign task, in a task that is not beneficial for him. So it's avodah zara. one is walking in a bad path, Chas v'shalom, if in that one moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give him some bracha in that time, so he will succeed in that foreign path and he will reach to Chas v'shalom great success in that direction he chooses. We learn from here that bracha, Miet Hashem, is a very, very good thing and it can bring us to great success in our life. But bracha Miet Hashem, when we ourselves are pointing in a negative direction, a negative manner, could be the biggest destruction, because we will succeed in that manner that we are positioned in. Whether if we want it long term, whether if we don't. And this is so important for the young, that they are in the beginning of their lives and they say, the young, what I'm doing right now will not have effect on my life. Of course that's not true. What you do when you are young, that's how you position yourself for the rest of your life. When that wind of bracha will push you forward, that's going to be the main moving factor of how you will have a successful life, or if you will not have a successful life. And that is why, Rabotai, bracha Miet Hashem is a very, very positive, or Chas v'shalom could be very, very destructive if not used properly. So the question is, how do we protect ourselves? How do we bring ourselves to a place and to a point of always being in the path of reaching to the good potential, to the bracha, with the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not Chas v'shalom, like what many in the Torah and in the past took the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a negative manner. So there's a Gemara that we've always thought about. There's two Gemarot actually. We're always thinking about and trying to come to a place of understanding it. And that's the Gemarot that we say, Bederech she'adam רוצה לילך, מוליכים אותו, or מסייעים לו. It's two different Gemarot, they give two different psukim. In short, in translation, the Gemara says, and Chazal teaches, in the path that a man chooses to walk, molichim, they will walk him, or the second one, they will help him. The question that we always asked is, what is they? Who's they? They will help him. They will direct him. They will walk with him. Why they? If it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu, say, b'derech she'adam רוצה ללך, in the path that a man wants to walk, a Kadosh Baruch Hu will help him. A Kadosh Baruch Hu will push him. What is that? They will push him. They will help him in a plural manner. Who is these two? Who are these multiple moving entities that help a person go in that specific direction where he chooses to go in? So in order to understand that, there's a beautiful piece in this week's Parasha that we can also connect and also put together. As we know, Botai, Ishmael was the son of who? Of Avraham. But it wasn't the son of Avraham and Sarah, but it was the son of Avraham and Hagar, which Hagar was what? Hagar was like a concubine, if I'm not mistaken, we call it, or like a shifcha, that like a maid or a slave, you can call it, in the house of Paro, or to Sarah, to be more specific. We learn in this week's Parasha that Sarah didn't like Hagar and didn't like Ishmael, because Ishmael was a bad influence, and she sent him to death. The Midrash says that when Ishmael was a boy, Malachai Sharet came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And they told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right now Ishmael is in the desert. He's in a very vulnerable place. He's still a child. Let's kill him now, while he didn't cause any damage to your kids, in order to prevent that when he will grow up, and he will become a big rasha, a very big bad person, him and his kids won't cause any trouble for your children. So, in conclusion, the Torah says, Hashem says, Ba'asher hu sham. No, judge him where he is now. He's a child now. He didn't sin now. He's not a bad person yet. You can't punish him now. You don't have the right to take his life, because in the future he will become a big rasha. But what is this concept of Malachai Sharet coming to this place of wanting to kill a child that had the ability to sin. What is this? What is this concept? What happened to freedom? For ability to choose. It seems that the angels have like some sort of a edge on taking a man and judging him, not even of where he is, but what he will be. If we're judging a person of what he will be, what about freedom? How does this make sense? So in order to understand this, we have to understand a deeper concept that exists about the hanagot that exist in our world. The hanagot, the leaderships that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in our world. We explained in many shiurim that the hanagot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are applicable to our hanagot, our leaderships. So, we could have a thought in our mind, an idea, but in order to bring the idea to fruition, what do you need to put it together? You need your hands. And with our hands, we lead our will. You open the door when you want to get to the door. You take the car when you want to get from place to place. You put food in your mouth when you're hungry. So the hands are how we lead ourselves on a day-to-day, manner-to-manner basis. The hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning the concepts of chesed and gvura, which are equivalent to a man's right hand and left hand, are to how the world is led. Now, the difference between them is that usually chesed, kindness, is pnimiut, it's the insides, and gvura, judgment, is on the outside. Where could we see an analogy that makes this more easier to understand? So it's like a man walked into a store of glass, a child walked into a store of glass cups, and the child fell and broke all the cups. There are two partners. One that is a kind partner, one is a partner of gvura, more judgeful. The kind partner, what is he going to say? He didn't have bad intentions. Regardless of what's broken and what's not broken, in reality, in the outside, his intentions and his heart were pure. He was just walking in, he tripped and he fell. Forgive him. The more judgeful partner is going to say what? I don't care what his intentions were. He broke the cup. He brought the damage. He needs to pay for it. And those are the two different hanagot that exist in our world. There is chutzuniyut, the outside of where our hands and what our deeds are able to reach. And we have the pnimiut, the insides of where our intentions are, where the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the will where we want to lead ourselves in. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's leadership in the world and how he created creations are also attached to either or of these hanagot, to either or of these leaderships that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created with. Where could we understand this? So, in order to split HaKadosh Baruch Hu's leaderships, we have to understand it, we have to explain it a little bit of a different manner. We know that it says that Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, showed him nevuot, showed him prophecies that no man saw like him. When we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe spoke panim ul panim, Chazal explain, they say in small detail, it wasn't face to face, because lo yareni adam panai v'chai, no man can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's face and live. But what HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed Moshe was what? Aharon, the outside. What is the difference between the face and the outside, the Aharon, the back? So, Zohar HaKadosh says, the difference is that the face represents what? The face, panim, represents pnimiut, meaning the insides, the intention that was hidden within the heart. And you could even see this with when you want to tell what's in a person's heart. When you want to tell what's in a person's heart, or what he's thinking, where do you look? You look at his face, you don't look at his shirt, but his heart is under his shirt. So why don't you look at his shirt? Because the opening to what exists within a person is where? On the face, and that's what we say, panim and pnimiut are the same letters. It's almost the same word, where they're both essentially intertwined one with the other. A man was not able to see, and is not able to see, the panim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which in other words represents what? the pnimiut, the inside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because no one, chas v'shalom, is able to understand and to see the real intentions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the outside, which is the fact, in reality, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to reveal. So what was so special about this outside prophecy that Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom saw? This Aharon, which is the Gvura, essentially the left-hand strength of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's leadership. Zohar HaKadosh says it's like the spine. What's the spine? The spine holds a man from the head, from the beginning, to where? To the end of his body almost. Where the spine starts from the bottom to the top. And the spine holds all what the body needs and all what the body has intact. The Zohar HaKadosh says, what was the istaklut, the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom seeing the back of the neck of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It was the essence of being able to see from beginning of time, from beginning of the spine that holds the world together, to the end of time, to the end of the spine. Or in other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom all the years of the past, all the leadership that HaKadosh Baruch Hu led the world with, from the moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, until what? Until the creation of, until the Biyat HaMashiach, until the creation of the new world, and the coming of the redemption, a complete redemption. That nevuah was the only nevuah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would allow Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom to see, which it represents what? Gvura, the strength of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the strength is reality that's from the beginning of time to the end of the Geula of Mashiach Tzidkenu. And we know that in many people throughout the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed to them this nevuah. Adam HaRishon was shown this nevuah, this prophecy, whereas we know that Adam HaRishon even gave 70 years of his life to David. How would he know that David didn't have years to live? Because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed him every generation to generation, he saw that there was a generation that a big man could have been born but didn't have time. The same thing we say about Yaakov in alav hashalom. In a few parashot we're going to read before he passes away. We say HaKadosh Baruch Hu gila lo acharit hayamin. What's acharit hayamin? He showed him the back of the tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the back of the neck, which represents what? All past and all future. It's like a timeline. Zohar HaKadosh says that the only one that is able to see the pnimiut, the inside, is who? Is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is where the concept that we know, where it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu ro'eh kelayot velev, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is able to see and able to understand what's in what? What's within our heart, what's within our insides. Something that no other creation could see. Based off this, we could learn something very, very simple. We know that Malachai Sharet, the angels of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, those who bring the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to fruition, they are creations that are created from what? From what sitra? From what essence? Chesed or Gvura? Angels are created from what? Gvura, strength. Meaning that their ability to lead and their ability to walk, it's only in the path of what? In the path of strength. In the path of what? In the path of what? Of the outside. The Zohar HaKadosh said angels, being a creation that is above time, because we know that they live in Alamot HaYedunim, and to build from Sitra de Gvura, from the essence of Gvura, is a creation that doesn't function on the now, but functions on what? Functions on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's leadership of the back of the neck, which represents a man's past deeds and represents a man's even future deeds, where angels are able to judge a man not on where he stands, where he is in the big inside his heart, not like the child that had good intentions but broke the cup, but they judge on the reality. The cups are broken, someone needs to pay for it. And this is something that we see it very constantly throughout many books, where even Chazal teaches that a man needs to pray to not be judged by Malachai Sharet, but to be judged by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzadikim go to Bet Din Shel Mala of Hashem. They go to the room of judgment where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging. Reshaim go to the Bet Din, to the room of judgment where an angel is judging. And that all comes from the path of what direction a man chose to walk in. Once we understand that, it also makes sense. All those arguments that we hear throughout the years, throughout the Parashot, of these angels, before creation of the world, they told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, don't create the world. Why don't create the world? What was their excuse?
Man would sin.
Man will sin, but they didn't sin, so why are you punishing them? No, angels work on what manner?
Future.
In the manner of a world with no time, meaning past, future, it's all the same thing for them. So when they saw the creation of the world, they understood that it is a matter of time, it doesn't even apply to them, that man will sin. So they fought against it. Angels, being in that manner, we could understand many different things. And we can too also understand this concept of Ishmael. The angels, when they looked at Ishmael as a child, they weren't able to see the pnimiyut, the insides, the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Ishmael, being a pure child, but they were able to see what? They were able to see where he's most likely going to end up being. And they wanted to judge Ishmael according of what? According to where he is going to end up being. But that's not the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu leading men. We are all judged for who we are by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We can learn from that something very, very beautiful. We say, Bederech she'adam rotze lilech, molichim oto. In the path that a man wants to walk, what? They help him. They walk him. They push him. Who are these they? Maybe we can say according to this. Malachei HaSharet, the helpers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the shlichim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they don't work on right now. They work on what? They work on something future. So when they see a man, they're not going to see him and they're not going to push him and help him to where he's standing in that very given moment. But they're going to push him and they're going to stand with him and they're going to treat him for what? For being something that is essentially much further down the line. Future. We can learn from this, Rabotai, something very, very, very simple. When we choose to work in a certain direction and in a certain path, Mishamayim, they hold us and they judge us and they treat us in that exact very way of where we could potentially be down the line. And that is for good and that is for bad. A man that chooses to become a tzaddik, in Shamayim, they're going to treat him, they're going to walk with him, and they're going to help him to that potential scenario where he will become tzaddik. Because in Shamayim, they don't lead a man for where he stands, but from where he's going to be. Where he's going to be is directly influenced by in what direction he points himself. And that is why, Rabotai, we think that it's so important for all of us to truly sit down and to do a self-reflection on where we stand in our life and in what direction we are leading ourselves. Sometimes, Rabotai, we can find ourselves walking in a way where we think that that is what's necessary for right now, but we're losing where we want to be or who we want to be in our lives. We have to understand that in any given moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can push us, can walk with us, can lead us, can give us a big help from above. Malachei HaSharet, his helpers, can push us, can lead us for a great help from above. But that can only happen in what? It can only happen for good. If we are directed or if we are looking at where we want to be long term, or where we want to see ourselves in the future. And where we see ourselves and where we guide ourselves, that's how we see ourselves, Mishamayim. Abotai, we can bring upon ourselves the bracha, in the shefa, in the mazal, in the yeshuah, of even days that don't exist in our life just by choosing a certain direction. And that is why, Rabotai, especially in this time of year, where, like we mentioned, there are no chagim. There are no mitzvot that the Torah are influencing us. There are no direction that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set in stone. It is the beginning of the year. It's the time where the rain comes. It's the time where the B'siyata Dishmaya comes. The push from above comes. This is a time, Abotai, that we all need to make sure that we are pointed in the right place. Because when that big Shefa and that big Yeshua will come, we will succeed. But we all need to be sure that that path that we are going to succeed in will be a path of bracha, and a path of Torah, and a path of Yeshua, and a path where we want to be. So Be'ezrat Hashem, in the merit of Tzaddik Rabbi Pinto, in the merit Be'ezrat Hashem of all the Tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem will give us big Yeshua, and Nechama, and Besorot Tovot, and maybe Be'ezrat Hashem be guided in the path that when we will receive our bracha and our Yeshua, we will Be'ezrat Hashem be pushed only in a positive direction. Amen. Be'ezrat Hashem. Baruch atah Adonai Melech HaMashiach, Kunei B'Gvaro. Is there any other questions, Rabotai? Ken Tzadika. We say, Beder she'adam rotze lilech. In the path that a person wants to walk, in the path that a person intends to go in. The problem is that people became very sly, in the sense that they could say something in their mouth, that's what I want to do, but in their heart it's something completely different. I guarantee that if a person truly wants to become tzaddik, Hashem will help him to become tzaddik. The problem is that if we have the ability to lead our mouth also in a foul way, and say, I want to become tzaddik, and we don't really want it, and we don't really mean it, then obviously it's not going to take us anywhere. If we truly mean what we say, or we truly want what we want, we will achieve what we want. But we don't always want what we want. We always think what we want is what we think, and what we say is what we want. That's not true. If a person wants to to be in a certain place, he will achieve so. All the people that were very successful in any way have one thing in common. They are very determined. So it's not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu just gave them a bracha. It's that they knew where they wanted to be, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped. We can see this in big Rabbanim. We can see this in big people of Asakim. Look at Rav Ovadia Yosef. There's a story of Rav Ovadia Yosef that he would stay till very late at night because he never understood what they were teaching in the yeshiva. So he knew where he wanted to be. So once he proved that what he wants is actually what he wants, and he's not just saying it, he got big yeshuot from it. There's some people that it is with Parasha. They try, and they truly prove that what they want is what they want. And they succeed in it, they achieve it. There's no such thing that a person cannot achieve. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bracha comes to a person equally. Rain comes from the Shamayim and not from under the ground to represent equal Shefa from Hashem. We all receive the Shefa equally. The question is, are we direct? Some people are not even directed anyway. Some people don't even know what they want. Some people don't even, they're not even pointed in any direction. They're like an arrow that's just sitting on a table. So bichlal, if you don't even know what you want, you're a completely different problem. So what we say we want and what we actually want is something completely different. So we have to be genuine with ourselves, and we have to want what we want and know what we want, and then if we know what we want, we will achieve it 100%. No such thing. If it's good for us or if it's not good for us, we will achieve it. You know, we say that when we bless a person, we should bless them with bracha, panasa, whatever it is. And then we say, all his heart's wishes will be achieved. What? For the good. Mishalot libo letovah. Why for the good? Why not just he will have all his heart wishes achieved? Because if one's heart's wishes are his heart's wishes, he will achieve it if it's good for him, if it's bad for him. If it's good or if it's bad. So if it's good, Baruch Hashem, and if it's bad, so he asked for the wrong things. So we have to know what we want, and we have to pray that what we want is the right direction HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to lead us.
So it's not destiny, it's not written that I will go to this path. It's not written for me. I'm choosing.
we have a concept of mishamayim, nachon, where it's direction mishamayim, but we chose that direction. You know, many people, they come and they say, you know, Rav, I'm suffering. I think it's because I'm suffering because of my previous gilgul that I went through. So because I have a previous gilgul, this is why I'm suffering what I'm suffering. And that's complete nonsense. The Rabbi Pinto in Mishivat Nefesh in Sefer Gilgulim, he says something very simple. You could have been the biggest, a person could have been the biggest Rasha in the world. Could have done all the sins in the world. He could have maybe specialized in specific sins, which would cause him to also be led in a specific specialized direction. But the Rabbi Pinto says, whatever he did in the previous life does not have the right to neither influence or bring punishment to that person unless he repeated it in this life. And if he repeated it in this life, and if he walked in that direction in this life, so you walked in that direction, you proved that that was the direction you wanted to walk in, the direction of your previous existence. So you'll be walking in that direction. All what was written for that previous man gets now put on you. So there is a concept of mishamayim. But even mishamayim changes according to our deeds. It's like we said that a man has 7 zivugim. Why 7 zivugim? I don't understand this concept. Why 7? You need 1. Why 7? Why 7? 7 zivugim. Why 7? Because for each position in his life, you can change it. You're a rasha. Just because your zivug is tzadikah doesn't mean you're going to marry her. Because if you chose a bad path and you let your yetzer hara control you, and you let your kas and your ta'ava and your lust and your desire control you, of course you're not going to take a pure neshama. So you're going to take the bottom one, the worst one that was meant for you. So that becomes ratzon mishamayim. That becomes the will of Hashem. You grow, you get better, so too will your zivug. So even zivug being something which is, we see it like it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way of sending us our other half of our neshama. Even that is controlled by us. Even that we don't have full control. Meaning we have even that we have full control. So yes, what occurs to us in Shamayim in our life, yes, is brought by Shamayim. It is led by Shamayim, but we caused it. We led it. So there's nothing that happens for no reason. Even people that passed away with no sin at all, they passed away because of the sin of Adam. Meaning, not something that Hashem just gives for no reason, a pinch or also a blessing. There's always something. There's always an initiative that we did. So, in the case of a man that never sinned at all, so he died because Adam sinned. There's no such thing as a tzaddik that received bad for not doing anything. There's accounts. Each man, it says that each man has an account which is very ancient. So, is there any other questions?
Excuse me.
Can I be Michael Tzadik? Ken Tzadika?
Let's say I want to be a good person, okay? But then if people keep slapping me in the face, it means what? That as a Jew I have to take it and never say a word and say, oh, this is my destiny.
You know,
It's
you know, some people say, I'm not angry, people make me angry. It's the same thing. If you're not angry, then if someone's going to try to make you angry, you're not going to get angry. And if you're an angry person, אומרים את זה בעברית, נכון? אני לא עצבני, מעצבנים אותי. I'm not an angry person, they make me angry. So, you can't say that. If you're an angry person, you're an angry person. If you're not an angry person, no one's making you. You are doing it to yourself. That's not applicable either. Michael?
We say that the angels don't look at the inner aspect, only the outer aspect. Only Hashem looks at the inner aspect.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that when we want to position ourselves as an aspect of our intentions, but also the aspect of our actions.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying B'siyata Shemaya means that Hashem and Hashem sending His angels to help us. There is an aspect of intention, but how much? See, if the angels only go based on what we could be potentially, so is it it's not enough to have only the. My question is how much of the action has to be there in order to direction ourselves and position ourselves to the positive
You want
path.
to know if in a conversation someone is interested in you? Look to what direction his face is pointing. And if his face is pointed in a certain direction, you know that his mind and his brain, his heart is pointing to has your attention. So even if we like it or don't, our will of our insides, they lead us. If our will is in that direction, we will point ourselves. It's a natural reaction.
So it is based on the inner, the pinimi aspect.
Everything starts inside and goes outside. Nothing just appears outside.
It's both.
If you want something to exist, it needs to have an inside. Something that doesn't have an inside doesn't have an outside either.
Yeah.
Inside comes first, and then outside builds around it. Or an inside creates an outside, you can call it more.
Right.
So our inside are what lead, essentially, our outside, which is more our direction that we choose to walk in.
So it's both. Like Rabbi Moshe said, like
Ken?
what direction the face is, because the
We
face
say,
is both.
look at them, at the words. Bederech she'adam rotze lilech. Not bederech she'adam rotze, molichim oto. Or bederech she'adam rotze mesei'in lo. בדרך שאדם רוצה ללך, a path that a man wants to walk, not just wants, he wants to walk. There's detail to the words that were chosen.
So what you want to do, that's what they're going to help you do.
It translates it. It translates and becomes that. If we like it or if we don't. It's like we said, if you would like to know if somebody is interested in us, look to what direction they're pointing. If their face is pointed the opposite there, it's very simple. Talk to us.
Rabbi Moshe, how are you today?
What are you understanding from this?
You're looking at
That my brain is not focused on you. I'm not connected to you. But once I turn my head, I show that I'm walking in your direction. I'm following.
attention.
Nobody walks back.